Multiple news stations caught the exact moment 46-year-old Brian Wells's head exploded on live television. On August 28, 2003 at 1:47 p.m., Mamma Mia's Pizzeria received a call from a payphone. The owner couldn't understand the caller, so he handed the phone to Brian Wells, who was asked to deliver 2 pizzas to 631 Peach Street. This address led to a TV transmission tower at the end of a dirt road. When Wells arrived at 2 p.m., he was met by 3 men and 1 woman who held him at gunpoint and forced him to put a bomb collar around his neck. They gave Wells a cane-shaped shotgun and instructions to rob a bank, telling him that if he succeeded, he would live, but if he failed, the bomb would detonate and kill him. Wells arrived at the bank at 2:30 p.m. and handed the teller a note, but the teller couldn't access the vault. Instead, Wells was given $8,177 and left the bank at 2:38 p.m. A witness called 911, reporting a man with a bomb around his neck leaving the bank. Wells tried to follow his captor's instructions to head toward a wooded area, but at 2:54 p.m., the police arrived and arrested him. The police then handcuffed him and sat him down in a McDonald's parking lot before quickly evacuating the block due to the ongoing bomb threat. At 3:04 p.m., the bomb squad called in, and at this point, multiple news stations were live on the scene reporting the situation. Still, at 3:18 p.m., police squads, bystanders, news reporters, and thousands of people watching the news saw Brian Wells's head explode on live television. The bomb squad would unfortunately arrive 3 whole minutes later, but by then, Brian was long gone. Some cops in Punta Gorda, Florida, conducted a home search on one 36-year-old Florida citizen named Justin Carver, only to find the remains of his mother inside the home. In this disturbing body cam footage, the police arrived at the home to check on a 55-year-old named Lainey Carver, who had filed a no-contact order against her son in the weeks before, but no one was around. Initially, Lainey's family also became concerned about her whereabouts and called on the police to conduct a welfare check.
Anybody? Is that Reese right there, right? A little bit. Watch that. Yeah, I saw him. Let's go to the neighbor.
On arrival, the cops began their search around but couldn't have access to the house. One of the cops was making inquiries from the neighbors about the woman's whereabouts, but all the information they got did not help the investigation. Unrelenting, they continued their search. At a time, they tried checking on the woman at the nearest hospital, but all to no avail. After several attempts and a long time spent searching, the door to the house opened. Surprisingly, Justin showed up, claiming he had been sleeping while the cops knocked.
Three days or something like that. When's the last time you seen the boys?
Yesterday.
Okay, so nobody today.
Getting in, the police discovered the decomposing body of his mother in her home. According to the police report, Justin Carver had been living alongside the bloated corpse of his mother, Lainey Carver. However, he reportedly lied to them. Unfortunately, the officers' suspicions were raised by a foul odor coming from the house. Immediately, Justin Carver was arrested for failing to report the death of his mom. In this disturbing scene caught on the street surveillance camera, the police are looking for these 3 suspects who were attacking a wheelchair-bound man for unknown reasons. This physically impaired man was in his wheelchair when 3 unknown people approached him, landing punches on him. He was beaten up so much that he got unconscious and was left there. After several investigations, the police reported that the victim got into an argument with a woman earlier on East Tremont Avenue back on November 8th, and things escalated. According to the cops, the man's backpack, phone, and money were only stolen. Fortunately, The victim only suffered minor injuries. On June 12, 2022, on a Sunday evening, near mile marker 101 in Key Largo, Florida, a police officer parked at the side of the road couldn't resist pursuing a strange moving white Chrysler 300 that drove past him at its rapid speed, only to discover the driver was a cop.
Get out of the car! Get out of the fucking car! I don't give a who you are. Get on your goddamn knees.
On Sunday, June 12, 2022, a police officer was...
Immediately, the car zoomed past in a blink of an eye, and the officer pursued it while alerting the nearby units. Not long after, other units joined in the pursuit of the high-speed chase. However, the Chrysler didn't slow down, despite being pursued. With the hot chase, the driver stopped the car at an intersection after several miles. The infuriated cop shouted at him to get out of the car, which he reluctantly did. As he alighted, he told the officer that he was a cop, but all to deaf ears. He was arrested on the spot, handcuffed, and put in the police van while the officers conducted checks on his car. After a thorough check, the officers realized the driver was a police officer. His flasher light was on, leaving the officers to debate whether it was on before. His name was Donovan Rojas, a 26-year-old officer at the Miami-Dade Police Department. Unbelievably, he was also driving the agency's car while drunk. This disappointed the officer in charge. Different firearms, weapons, and spare tires were found in the car, as well as some unidentified prescription pills. He was taken to the station for further interrogations. He was charged with fleeing and DUI, driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs. He claimed he didn't notice he was being chased all the while and apologized. Afterwards, he began displaying some strange behaviors, like talking to himself quietly, and did not seem sober about his state. Later, upon realizing the situation that he can't escape the charges against him, he finally becomes sober, but it's too late. He was officially relieved of his duty as a police vehicle. The highlights of an ATM card theft scene were released by the cops after investigations have been carried out. It was a day when 3 suspects were reportedly parading the shopping complex, strategizing their operation. CCTV captured the whole season. These are known gangs that move around the region.
Today we have an example of how card skimming and scamming works at an ATM.
The 3 men arrived in a car and alighted one after another, pretending to enter the mall. However, they were watching the people at the ATM. Initially, it is extremely difficult to apprehend them because they only stay for a short while. However, after the whole recording of the theft was obtained, they were arrested and convicted. In Philadelphia, a mother who was reported to have allegedly jumped out of a window is being held in police custody after officers found her children injured inside a 3rd-floor apartment on Thursday. It happened around 11:43 a.m. on the 1500 block of N52nd Street in the city's Parkside section when the cops got a 911 call. Upon responding to the calls, the cops discovered the disturbing scene at the woman's house. While at the scene, the officers found a 2-year-old girl and a 4-year-old girl, both unresponsive, suffering from facial trauma, according to investigators. They were all rushed to the hospital with the cause of their predicaments unknown to the cops.
4-year-old daughters suffering from severe facial trauma. They were both rushed to the hospital, listed in critical condition at this hour. The mother, who is in stable condition.
This video has sent chills to the hearts of many as a brave 16-year-old boy, Hammond, was shot while trying to protect his mother, Charlotte, from carjackers.
It went straight here and then came out my back.
16-year-old William Hammond shows us where he was shot.
But I do remember getting put on the stretcher.
On the night of July 23rd, the boy and his mother were closing from work at Hart Mac and Cheese on Spencer Highway in Deer Park. Suddenly, an unmasked man with a gun approached his mother, asking her to get in the car. Charlotte immediately closed the driver's door to protect her son in the car, but Hammond got out of the car and threw a bottle at the man. In revenge, he was shot in the chest. The gunman took the car away, and Hammond was rushed to a nearby hospital. The police chased the carjacker and caught up with him in southern Houston.
get into the car. She closes the driver's seat door to protect her son.
I say nah. I get out of the car with the glass bottle. I run around and I throw it at him.
The 28-year-old suspect, Matthew Hubbard, was arrested after he crashed the car on Creek Bend Drive. Thankfully, Hammond was Alice's witness to the crime. According to the report from the man, after being miraculously saved from the shot, he needed to protect his mom, which is what he did. The suspect is now in police custody after a long chase from the officers. A man was charged with murder in the deaths of 2 people whose bodies were found Wednesday morning in a Highland Park home. During a wellness check, a couple was found dead in their home. The cops' attention was called to check on the couple in their house, and upon their arrival, the officers saw blood under the door.
Dealing with personal issues for some time.
A sweet, quiet guy. I mean, he really kept to himself, and I think everybody was surprised.
Investigating the cause of the couple's death, some neighbors claimed that the husband and wife had been having some personal issues for days. However, as the officer forced their way into the house, they found one 45-year-old Barry Goldberg. They took him into custody, believing he'd have the needed information as to what led to the sudden deaths of the 2 lovebirds.
Never would have thought all these things would happen.
A grisly discovery Wednesday morning. Police responding to a wellness check locate a husband and wife dead. Mindy.
Some kidnappers' hideouts have also been busted in the remote area of Rivers State by the police force, leading to many shocking and perturbing scenes.
Eleme Farm Road and other deserted areas like this in rural communities have become the preferred hideouts for kidnappers.
The report of a kidnapped 38-year-old man from the Urgi community, Port Harcourt, on May 2020, led the cops to the den of the kidnappers. But unfortunately, his corpse was found tied to a tree in the thick forest. One of the suspects arrested at the crime scene revealed that misunderstanding led to the death of the man after his 1 million naira ransom was paid. Skulls, amongst other skeletal remains, were found at the crime scene.
The police anti-kidnapping unit as they tried to respray the victim's vehicle. The arrest will bring some respite to residents of.
In this footage, some human parts dealers were caught in Nigeria with repulsive human parts like kidneys, heads, intestines, and livers, amongst others.
Since it's not every day one gets to hear or see such, it was therefore understandable that a large crowd gathered to see the people being paraded.
The evil perpetrators were arrested in a village in Ogun State called Joju and brought to Lagos. One of the suspects revealed whom he buys the human head from for 10,000 naira, while another revealed how they cut off the head of an exhumed corpse. The old woman selling the parts confessed how she manipulates the sales of human meat as if it were animals.
When we need to dig a new grave, we exhume an old corpse and cut off the head.
In this troubling video, a mother of 5 was suddenly reported missing after dropping her children at school and rushing back home to meet up with her appointments. What happened to her afterwards was shocking.
4th of 2019. Officers entered the home of Jennifer Doulos in an effort to see if she was somewhere within the house or to find any clues as to her whereabouts.
It was a near-perfect spring day as 50-year-old Jennifer Doulos loaded her children into the family's 2017 Chevy Suburban and took them to school. She rushed home because she had 2 doctor's appointments in New York City, one at 11 a.m. and the second at 1 p.m. Depending on traffic, she should have had plenty of time to get home, gather, change cars, and head out. She made it home, but that was where her trial ended. Without a trace, the mother of 5 suddenly disappeared. Upon several investigations by the cops, many disturbing discoveries surrounded her disappearance, from going through the extended trials and tribulations of a messy divorce to the blood found on the Range Rover parked in the garage.
That Michelle Troconis would see her own case come to trial and stand for her part in the conspiracy. Over 27 days of...
These officers were conducting a stop and search on a suspect who was driving recklessly on the highway with a bad tire. Unbeknownst to them, The unsuspecting woman, known as Julissa Thaler, had a body in her car, but she was let go prior to the horrifying discovery.
This is the very moment officers let a killer walk off just prior to discovering a body in the trunk of her car.
We got a body. All right.
Law enforcement
After pulling her over, the cops discovered the car's back windshield had been smashed out with glass all over the interior. Also, there were shotgun shells on the floorboards and an amount of blood on the seat. When asked about the blood, she claimed it was deer meat. She was then asked to go, but her car would be towed. A few minutes after she left, the officers later found a body in the trunk, a boy who was believed to be her son. Later, she was arrested for further investigation.
I'm missing a tire because some kids were shooting at my car. I had some...
What looks like blood in there?
It's not blood, it's deer meat. I had a big bag of, there's a farm around here that does deer meat.
This body cam video captured how these cops made a shocking discovery in a woman's wallet at the traffic stop. Let's find out what was found in her wallet. This woman was pulled over during a traffic stop and search. The female officer found a bizarre object on the driver's seat, which she showed her male colleague.
Ma'am, is your ID in your purse?
With the discovery, she asked if the woman's ID was in her purse, but held her back as she attempted to get the required ID. The confused woman asked why she did that and was told it was because of the Xanax bars found on her seat. A dashcam caught another kidnapping scene on the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, leaving the officers shocked by their mode of operation.
Okay. Which one?
An ongoing kidnapping process was reported to the police officers in the nearest units, and immediately they set out to see the situation. On getting to the crime scene, it was discovered that the perpetrators had blocked the highway for their operation. One of the kidnappers was arrested at the scene, and while the others were being looked for, there was a shootout with the cops from the nearby bush. Luckily, no life was lost, and the armed forces were able to take over the spot from the evil perpetrators.
They don't carry anything.
In August 2012, a dash cam of a Louisville Metro Police Department cruiser captured an unsettling scene. On the routine traffic stop, the officers stopped a Honda car with an expired plate number. One of the officers noticed 3 people in the car, but also realized the kicks and yells coming from the trunk. He immediately called for backups.
This routine traffic stop turned into something very unsettling. In August 2012, the dash cam of a Louisville Metro Police Department cruiser captured a traffic stop involving a Honda.
The backup officers arrived and the trunk was opened, only to discover a man that had been tied with a towel to his face in the trunk. Shockingly, the man was the owner of the vehicle. The suspects ambushed him after closing from his night shift. Their intentions with the man remain unknown, as they didn't try stealing the vehicle alone. They also kidnapped him.
Forcefully detained the 3 suspects. Upon cautiously opening the trunk, the officers discovered a man with a towel tied around his head and his hands bound behind his back. This man was the owner of the vehicle.
In this shocking video, a police officer was incapacitated for reasons unknown by a strange suspect. It was a night, and it occurred as the cop got out of the police van to catch up with a suspect who, in turn, powered him. The officer was executed. He fell and couldn't get up. While spectators were yelling, the case of cop left his other cops who arrived at the scene in a state of confusion as they were unable to discover what actually happened. On August 20, 2021, these cops arrested a man with suspected movement on the highway. It happened that the police had been looking for him the day before. The sideway pulled him over. He got out of the car and walked backwards towards the officers while raising his hands.
Walk backwards! Walk backwards! Back!
The man was with another female fellow who was all the while looking. The officers began their search in his car and couldn't believe what they found in the trunk. Shockingly, another set of human parts dealers were apprehended by the police force in Ogun State. There were 4 suspects, and they were caught with several human parts. Confessing the crime, the suspects revealed how they operate. According to one of them, they recovered some of the bodies from accident scenes.
The one you had 2 years ago, what did you use?
I'm not the person using it. The person using it is already dead. But the police are asking me what is happening.
What about the dress?
The press, I gave him, I've collected the press from him.
This unfortunate man was arrested by the police while pretending to be the father of some kids he kidnapped. On October 10, 2022, an alleged kidnapper was caught on camera in Hillsborough County by the Florida officers who made a quick rescue of 2 young children.
Why are you doing with the kids? What's going on?
Earlier, before the arrest, the father of the kids reported the kidnapping of his children to the police and also the theft of his truck. The prompt response of the deputy sheriff made the suspect run out of luck that day.
Step out of the car. Step out of the car, bro. Okay, step out of the car. Help me out.
The 37-year-old Kevin Smith was arrested on the spot and charged with theft and kidnapping. Thankfully, the children were not injured. In this video, the police department has announced a missing mother who had gone missing for days.
Search for a mother who's been missing for days as police make a disturbing discovery.
The police made some disturbing discoveries on the day the woman, Joan Viao, went missing. Her apartment and truck were covered with blood. It was reported that Joan went out of the apartment with one of her sons but didn't return.
All her son can do is worry and wait.
I don't want to assume the worst, but at this point, that's all I can think about. I can just feel like something's wrong.
Since that day, their whereabouts have been unknown, leaving the cops to some disturbing causes of investigation. The military officers of the Nigerian Armed Forces burst the base of kidnappers and herdsmen in Kaduna Forest.
Well, get up! Get up! Come from! They don't know! Fire them! Let's go! Pursue them! Let's go!
In this video, released to the media through a body cam, it was a battle of fire with sporadic shooting between the officers and the kidnappers in the forest. The thickness of the forest gave the officers a tough time getting the kidnappers apprehended, who were shooting at them from the rear ends.
Jump over! Fire the idiot! Good one there! Let's go! Let's go!
Tragically, the military forces lost an officer in the battle. In this disturbing footage, the San Antonio Police Department released an image of a crime suspect's vehicle involving a Texas coach.
The San Antonio Police Department and Crime Stoppers have released an image of the suspected vehicle they believe is involved.
On July 23rd, 28-year-old Aiden Burt was at Smoke Sky sitting on the rooftop patio, attending an event for coaches, when an unknown gunman suddenly shot her. The bullet, which was fired from an area of I-37, hit her, and she died instantly, leaving the cops with a disturbing investigation to deal with.
On July 23rd, 28-year-old Aiden Burt was at Smoke Sky Bar sitting outside at the rooftop patio when she was hit by a bullet fired from the area of I-37.
In this dramatic rescue video, the cops busted a residential complex in Ontario, Canada, to rescue an 8-year-old Texas girl who was kidnapped. On May 19, 2019, the Toronto Police Department arrested a man who abducted an 8-year-old Fort Worth and Woodbridge Suites in Forest Hill, Ontario.
Open the door! Open the door!
According to the report, Fort was having a walk along the neighborhood street of Toronto with her mother when an unknown man suddenly abducted her. Immediately, the cops were called upon, and they swung into action. They got to the room entrance and asked the man to open the door, which he refused, leaving them to force the door open. Luckily, the young girl was rescued unscathed, and the kidnapper was arrested for kidnapping.
We need an EMT. Get call MedStar. Yes. No, don't worry about your post. Don't worry about your post. We got it.
The disturbing body cam captured the moment an officer found a lonely little girl sitting in the parking lot by the roadside. An Albuquerque police officer found a 3-year-old girl in the cold night alone.
Sweetheart, you okay? Come here. Come here.
He quickly ran to her and kept her warm in the van. Later, he discovered how the little girl got to sit alone in the parking lot. Caroline Leon Alkaline was in her mom's car earlier when a thief got in and drove the car away.
Albuquerque police officer found an abducted 3-year-old girl sitting alone in a parking lot in the cold.
You're okay. She's okay. She's okay. Just get warm.
The mom was in a store running an errand. Fortunately, the thief dropped the girl off and took the car only. The suspect's whereabouts remain unknown. On January 2023, a police officer was conducting his routine patrol when he realized he needed to follow an SUV with suspicious movement in Waukesha, Wisconsin. He noticed the reckless driving of the driver named Rudolph and decided to initiate a traffic stop. The officer made him pull over to ask him questions. However, the speech of the man with the lady beside him was slurry. Mauricio, he was reeking of alcohol. To all the questions he was being asked, he gave evasive answers.
Okay, how about you, boss?
Probably less than her, but check my ID. It's just, everything's good, man. We're literally like...
How much did you have to drink is what I'm asking?
Probably one or two.
But
one or
we
two
also
what?
left
No.
at
After a while of unyielding investigation, the officer requested a test drive, and Rudolph asked to inform his wife about it, but drove away instead. He rolled up the car's glass while faking his talk with his wife, but the cop noticed him igniting the car instead. He then zoomed off at 100 miles per hour. Unfortunately for him, he rammed into a tree when he lost control of the car. He got out of the car and started making a foot-run escape, but was caught up by the cops. Despite being caught, he was still giving the cops a tough time to apprehend him.
Are you new? I've been doing this for over a year.
You've been doing what?
No, have you been a cop for, doing this for over a year?
I don't know if that's relevant.
No, I'm just asking you. I really want to know.
I'm not sure.
The shocking discovery of the cops in Southport has led to an unexpected but drastic clash with some violent protesters. Hundreds of demonstrators have caused a fire outage following the discovery of deadly knife attacks and killings of children in the neighborhood. In a neighborhood attack, 3 girls were killed, and the police are yet to arrest the perpetrators, leading to angry mobs at the crime scene. The mob started throwing stones and fireworks at the officers with claims that the police were not truthful in ensuring the suspects were brought to book. Some of the officers sustained serious injuries. However, a 17-year-old was apprehended by the cops with suspicious movements related to the criminal act. Some cops have arrested a couple who had bizarre developments linked to their house. In the city of Boston in the United States, a tunnel was discovered in the couple's house while the cops were investigating. The tunnel was linked through a hole covered by furniture in the house. Unusual elements were found in the tunnel, leading to the couple's arrest. The tunnel was well designed by professionals, with the walls built on reinforced structures. Shockingly, a laboratory was found at the end of the tunnel, leaving them to make a horrific find. This shocking automobile crash will leave you down to heart as the cops reveal what led to the ghastly accident. On February 27, 2019, a 68-year-old man drove his RS6 C7 on the Autobahn A81 highway in Mundelsheim, Germany, unknown to him that it would be his last drive. The highway has no speed limits, so that anyone can drive at 200 kilometers per hour. But based on the report, he was driving at 300 kilometers per hour. Suddenly, a truck pulled into his lane without checking his rear mirror, and the man rammed into the truck. It was a terrible scene that the RS-6 was found unrecognizable at the scene. The old man died immediately, but his body was split into pairs, with only one half of the body found. The cops came around and took the car away. The Long Beach Police Department has released a new video surrounding a deadly officer-involved shooting that took place in April. In the armed robbery attempt on April 29, 2024, an unknown armed robber tried to carry out a night operation at Serenas Avenue. The home security camera captured the masked man by the doorstep, trying to use a crowbar to break into the house.
On Cerritos Avenue, the caller there, a grandmother, telling dispatch through a translator that an armed suspect has entered her home. Security cameras show the man wearing a mask and using a crowbar to try and...
The house owner called 911, and the cops arrived at the scene. The officers asked the man to drop his weapon, but he refused, threatening he'd rather kill himself on the spot. Unfortunately, an officer shot him after he pointed the gun at the officer, and he died instantly. A cardiopulmonary resuscitation was conducted on the suspect, but was to avail. The 17-year-old's corpse was taken away with his gun retrieved from the scene.
The body-worn camera there appears to be blocked by the police car the officer is behind, but the video also showing officers inside the house attempting CPR on the suspect before he was taken to a nearby hospital.
In this shocking video, an officer was attacked at the airport by a group of individuals. Despite efforts by other cops to restrain the attackers from the cop, they wouldn't budge. However, what prompted their actions left other officers puzzled. After a thorough investigation, the police department discovered that the officer had assaulted one of the men earlier at the terminal. In the disturbing footage, the police officer was seen stamping on the man's head at Manchester Airport. Despite a woman kneeling to beg him, he didn't stop. The wicked act led to the man having a cyst on his brain with worsening symptoms. This led to the chaos that broke out in the inner terminal of the airport as the men fought with the wicked cop. Aside from that, after the video went viral on social media, protesters stormed the police station in numbers, demanding justice. This crime documentary revealed how a cop discovered a shocking and disturbing murder scene of a young lady. The partly decomposed body was found in a thick bush.
I feel like I was turning this path and it was right up there.
I smell something. Man, see, it's strong right here. You smell it? Like, could we see it? How far off was it?
I mean, I saw it. I was running by.
According to the reports gotten by the cops, the young teenager from the Orlando area suddenly vanished from home. It was a Friday morning on April 13, 2018, 3 weeks after her 16th birthday. Justice Marie Garrett prepared to go to school but missed the school bus. Her mother, Danielle Pratt, asked her fiancé, Robert Bobby Kern, to drive her to school instead, with the hope of coming back home with the bus from school. Later that day, Justice failed to return home, leaving her mom to assume she was with one of her friends. But unfortunately, she didn't return till the next day. The sickening mom called the cop the next day to report her daughter missing.
From her home, the investigators tasked with finding her could have never imagined the twisted and shocking series of events that would eventually lead them to the most sickening.
The cops, upon their investigation, thought that she had left home because she might not want to deal with changing her school, as the family was to relocate. However, as they gathered numerous pieces of information, a shocking one was reported by friends that Justice was never sighted anywhere in school on that day. Where could she have gone after being dropped off by her mother's fiancé?
Police initially questioned whether Justice had simply run away, if only for the weekend. as the teen had recently been forced to change schools as a result of her family moving to Sorrento just a few months prior.
Tragically, 4 days later, the girl's corpse was found in a wooded area off Gasline Road in DeLand through a trail from a longtime member of the Daytona Hash House Harriers who stumbled across the dead body in the woods. The body was found about 10 feet off the jogging path, with the top part remaining skeleton and the bottom part remaining clothes, leaving the cops to the thorough and desperate search for the killer of justice. A 67-year-old Stephen Bowman had reportedly escaped death after a construction worker ran into her by the roadside with a vehicle. On a Thursday evening, a man who his employer had just fired drove an SUV through neighborhood sidewalks and streets in West Las Vegas.
I heard somebody say he's coming back, and I couldn't move.
67-year-old Stephen Bowman dodged death. A disgruntled construction worker.
According to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department homicide lieutenant, Jason Johansson, the driver was attempting to run over a pedestrian near Charleston and Decatur Thursday evening around 6:30 p.m., but the real cause of the suspect's action remains bizarre.
Then, her grandson subdues him, later cooperating with police before release by Friday morning.
He was going crazy.
You knew he was coming towards you.
The patrol officers stopped some guys to check their cars, but found disturbing elements that posed a strange view of their identity. While checking the car, a bizarre object that looked like a lock to a safe was found. Also, a mannequin-like object was found but burned to complex recognition. Later, another shocking discovery of a burnt wallet with an identity card that only had the pair's vision of the holder of the wallet was made, leaving the officers with a series of disturbing questions.
Oh my gosh. Okay, this just got a little bit weirder.
In this body cam footage, police are investigating the attempted assassination of former United States President Donald Trump during his re-election campaign. Trump was delivering a speech when a stray bullet suddenly struck him. Fortunately, the shooter missed his target, and the bullet grazed Trump's ear instead of hitting his head. Tragically, the bullet struck another person in the crowd, killing them instantly and severely injuring two others.
Ring out. Wounded, one rally-goer killed and two others seriously injured. In the frenzied minutes that followed, a Secret Service officer is heard.
Acting quickly, the police located the gunman's hideout on a nearby rooftop and arrested him. The State Secret Service acknowledged that the incident was a result of their failure to provide adequate protection during the campaign. As a consequence, the Secret Service director resigned following the attempted assassination.
Is he a shooter? Did he have a weapon? That was the report.
Local police are then heard questioning.
This body cam footage also showed how Georgia police arrested a traveler who allegedly exposed himself to a young girl at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport in September. The police department, after getting a hint about the suspect's identity, swung into action. The officers entered the plane searching for him.
Alright, I'm gonna wait. Alright, do me a favor, alright? Lean forward a little bit.
Yo.
You got a warrant out for your arrest, alright? Just lean forward, don't worry, we'll get you back. Lean forward a little bit. Alright, put your hand behind your back, buddy.
After a while of a thorough search, the suspect was found on his extreme seat in the plane and was immediately arrested on the spot. According to the authorities, a bystander caught Andrei Galanine on camera, exposing himself to the victim, which was used to identify him. The disturbing incident unfolded in one of the airport's atrium areas when Galanine allegedly exposed and began touching himself in front of the underage victim. The quick-thinking witness captured video evidence on their cell phone before Galanine fled the scene. With the information, the police released images of the suspect to the public and apprehended him after he returned to Atlanta from Florida several days later. Galanine was arrested and charged with public indecency and a criminal attempt to commit a felony.
I'll explain exactly what's going on, alright?
Do you have some bags?
Yeah.
Where's your bag?
Okay.